Now on Radio 1, part 2 of the two-part documentary about the Pet Shop Boys.
What are we calling it that?
Well, it's good because it is about us, obviously.
Various Pet Shop Boys thoughts, November 1996.
I've never liked having to be serious, which is why being in a pop group's absolutely fantastic, because you can be a sulky brat all your life.
The thing Chris and I have always both liked most about music is that it gives you some emotional response or high. And you can hear that in Wagner, or you can hear it in a Kylie Minogue record. And we've never applied notions of taste to that.
I think my basic personality is to always do and feel the opposite of what you're meant to. So I'll probably be chirpiest if we're not being very successful, and more miserable if we are being successful. I've always assumed this will all be taken away from you anyway, so I'm probably always preparing myself for that.
We've never sold sex. Actually, I was thinking quite recently that it's difficult when you don't sell sex in pop music. It's very, very difficult. And the Pet Shop Boys have never done that because we didn't feel ourselves to be sexually attractive enough. And we were too embarrassed to do that anyway. If you're not selling sex, you have to write really good songs.
If you like what you've done, it can't be a mistake.
Bilingual's funny as well. Sounds a bit like bisexual.
I don't know what I think about fame, really. I certainly don't enjoy it in the way that Noel Gallagher really enjoys it, lives for it. I'm one of the old-style whingers that complains about it, but is prepared to take all the good points of it and then reject the bad ones.
We wanted to present ourselves as we were, not giving an inch. We'd set out to make a mega, over-the-top record with the spaceship at the front for some reason and bits of Latin at the end. And it was quite a different kind of record than we'd ever done, actually. In fact, we actually created the Pet Shop Boys archetype, that we had to do a high-energy, four-on-the-floor dance record with mega strings and weird sound effects.
So It's a Sin came out, and it was our second number one.
It was quite interesting, the reaction to the record, because first my mother told me the first time she heard it, she burst into tears, because she read it completely seriously, and she thought it meant that I had a very, very sad and unhappy childhood, and she felt very bad about that.
When I look back upon my life, it's always with a sense of shame. I've always been the one to blame.
And I had to say to her, I said, God, we wrote the song about 10 minutes. It's sort of meant to be sort of a joke, really. It is sort of true about being brought up in a Catholic school, where you are told everything really to do with sex, actually, is a sin, And you used to get told at school about, this kind of kissing which simulates the act of sex itself. And you used to think, wow, what is that?
At school they taught me how to be so pure in thought and word and deed. They didn't quite succeed.
And then, suddenly on the front page of the Newcastle Evening Chronicle, there was a big story emanating from St Cuthbert's, the school I went to, saying that I'd misrepresented the school and it was outrageous.
They thought Neil was slagging off his old school, which probably was because he hated it.
I was told afterwards by someone who'd been to the school at that time that you'd be suspended if you were found with a copy bits of sin within the precincts of St Cuthbert's, which I was actually quite thrilled about. And then, in contrast to St Cuthbert's, we were on the front cover of the War Cry, the Salvation Army's paper, saying how marvellous it was that the subject of sin was up for public discussion again. It's quite interesting, actually, that what really started off as one of our kind of silly, funny songs definitely struck a chord with a lot of people, for good or for bad.
Everything I've ever done, everything I ever do, every place I've ever been, everywhere I'm going to, it's a sin.
Tom Watkins, our manager, had for a while managed an American songwriter called Ali Willis.
And it turned out that she'd written or co-written Boogie Wonderland, so I thought, wow. And I think she suggested writing a song with her.
And we started writing it. And then Chris got in a very strange mood and walked out. Got in a bit of a mood about it all.
Oh, did I? Whilst we were writing it? I probably did. I was more prone to that kind of thing then, throwing tantrums and just storming out.
Anyway, Ali Willis and I talked him through this and we carried on and finished the song. By the end of the session, we were completely thrilled.
There are three very distinct parts to the song. Neil's bit, Ali's bit and my bit.
Chris had written all the intro. Da, 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 da.
Neil's was the "You always wanted a lover." Da-da-da.
You always wanted a lover. I only wanted a job.
And Ali Willis wrote, in my opinion, the best bit of the song, the "Since You Went Away."
Since you went away, I've been hanging around. I've been wondering why I'm feeling down.
And anyway, the idea of the song was that it was about a love affair gone wrong between a man and a woman. So we divided the words up to make it like a duet. And we tried to get in touch with Jessie Springfield. I just always loved her voice. She's always been my favourite pop singer. And she just has a heartbreakingly beautiful voice. It's just always her voice.
She sounds like she's really lived it.
Anyway, so she came in the studio and she sang it. It just sounded fantastic.
I still hadn't got a real clue what they wanted me to do, and proceeded to totally foul it up for at least 5 hours, thinking they wanted some more fireworks from me, which actually I'm not very good at. And finally they just said, "We just want the sound of your voice," which never occurred to me.
She said to us, "What do you want me to sound like?" And we said, "Well, you."
Are we on the right tape?
Watching the Elton John documentary Tantrums and Tiaras for the third time, August 1996.
I think so.
This is LWT, now Tantrums and Tiaras, an extremely frank
Sounds not very good, is it?
diary of a year in the life of rock superstar.
Just turn it down a little bit more, sorry. Well, that's rock and roll.
If that isn't Spinal Tap, I don't know what is.
He's so knocked. Slam.
Our lips are firmly sealed.
Yes. Yeah, who does that remind you of?
Well, it's not me. I've never walked off a video shoot. Actually, he doesn't even walk off.
I know he doesn't, that's
Oh,
why.
lightweight. I went the whole way. I didn't just pretend.
Oh, another tantrum.
What happened was Derek John was directing the video. He'd already done it to see him. And we asked him to do Rent. I don't know what had happened, but when we got to King's Cross, Chris wasn't to be seen.
I got there and there was no one there. And I sort of waited for an hour and I thought, sod this.
And Chris was a bit paranoid, as it turned out, that I was being treated as the sort of... Because I was the singer, it was always obvious what I did. And there was always a bit of a strain, actually, what does the other one do? And he was in absolute rage about it. We had actually the only screaming row we ever had in our entire career and friendship. And got annoyed and screamed back at him, slammed the phone down.
God, is this all from Neil? Neil's got such a good memory for some things. I don't remember it being such a big deal. I remember going home and not doing the shoot.
We would normally get over that kind of thing by not really discussing it, by just dealing with the reality of it afterwards.
Chris attempting a multiple-choice magazine quiz about the Pet Shop Boys backstage at TFI Friday, November 1996.
Which was the Pet Shop Boys' second wife? It's the Sin. Was it? Which of the following have the Pet Shop Boys never worked with?
I got them.
Lisa Stansfield. Hey, it's not too difficult. How many number one singles have the Pet Shop Boys had? No idea. 3? 4? Which of these actors didn't appear in the Pet Shop Boys cinematic flop? Which of these actors did not appear in the Pet Shop Boys cinematic flop? It couldn't happen here.
You are always on my mind.
It couldn't happen here, 1988.
Where are you going? I'm going there. But I like it here, wherever it is.
Maybe I didn't treat you quite
It never actually entered my head we'd ever make a movie. In the mid-'80s, though, people were always waffling on about video albums. And they came up with this guy called Jack Bond.
He met with us a few times over dinner. We just chatted about things and our lives and everything. You didn't realise this at the time, but he was actually taking mental notes.
This isn't a representation of where they were born or how they lived their lives, I'm sure. I saw it as two brothers coming up from infancy and going through this journey together.
Boys! Boys!
Who wants to leave the room? Ah! Tenant. Lo. Come, Lieutenant.
It's sort of spooky the way the film ends, I think, where me and Neil turn around and we both got these noughts on our backs, so I don't know if he's implying that we're both nobodies, I don't know.
That wasn't about them, that was about all of us, I thought, really. At the end of the day, at the end of the struggle, what do we leave with? Do we leave with anything? I suppose other than the triumph of having muddled through. The film, to me, if it has any meaning at all, is meant to be a tribute to people who just get by, despite all the crises, in such a magnificent way.
We worked so hard on that film with actors, like Barbara Windsor and Joss Ackland, and it was all quite exciting, the whole thing. We were in what I would call our imperial phase, the pop stars get to when you've had a load of big hits. You feel very strong, confident, and after imperial, of course, is survival. But we were in, definitely, 1988 was our imperial year. The film came out, when there was previews of the film, I realised that everyone was going to think it was awful, because it wasn't a story, it was probably pretentious.
Where are you from?
Yes, where are you from?
I'm glad you asked me twice. You see, I'm a bilingual. I'm a bilingual illiterate. I can't read in two languages. I've just been fishing with Salvador Dali. He used a dotted line. He caught every other fish.
It looked like a kind of folie de grandeur, whatever you call it. Although when Chris and I first saw it, when it was finished, I really, really liked it. I found it rather weird and kind of brought tears into my eyes at various points. That's probably because it was us, though. But I know it's generally regarded critically by people who regard the Pet Shop Boys' career as a series of immaculately conceived moves, a very kind of heterosexual, incisive, journalistic way of looking at things, that the one mistake they made was to make this film. Well, of course, we always regarded what we've done as a kind of things came along and we did them, and they all seem to work out. Isn't that great? And we were most unapologetic about it at the time. Father, forgive me. Whatever you taught me, I didn't believe it. Father, you fought me because I didn't care and I still don't understand. When 1987-88, we had 3 #1 singles within the space of a year. And then when Domino Dancing came out, I remember being in a car driving back from Sussex and listening to the chart live on the radio on the Sunday, and Domino Dancing going in at #9. This is a record we thought would go to #1. And I thought, oh, well, that's it. That's that over.
I don't know why, I don't know how. Thought I loved you, but I'm not sure now. I hear the thunder crashing, the sky is dark, and now a storm is breaking within my heart. All day, watch them all fall down. All day, domino dancing. All day, watch them all fall down. All day, domino dancing. All day.
I knew then, just like that, that was over. That phase was then over. The kind of hyper-pop phase was then over. Introspective, that it came from, actually was our best-selling album around the world. But you knew then that nothing would ever be as kind of easy again.
Answering questions from fans, November 1996.
What do you think about fans who love you too much, Marina? Well, it doesn't really happen that often. But obsessive fans are very annoying. I think it's unhealthy. So I think they are unhealthy because they project everything onto you and consequently have very little life of their own. And it stops them developing a life of their own. And then, as they don't develop a life of their own, they blame their lack of the lack of their life on you. So it's all your fault. And then they develop a kind of love-hate, which becomes more obsessive.
It becomes more hateful.
It becomes more hateful. It becomes extremely annoying and horrible. But it doesn't really happen very often.
I agree with what Neil said. I refer the gentleman to the answer I gave earlier. The answer Neil gave earlier.
Patsy Kensit we'd seen around for ages. We thought she made crap records, is the fact of the matter, but she looked great.
She was always quite friendly with Neil, particularly. She used to say to him, "Oh, when are you going to do this record for me?" You know, all the time.
I was just really pissed one night at this club, and Neil was there, and I went up to him and said, "Listen, when are you going to write me a song, do a song for me?" And he went, "Well, that's a really good idea, actually." And they sent me a tape of I'm Not Scared, and in retrospect, I think it was a fantastic take on their perception of me with all this sort of negativity. You know, I seem to be quite fearless about everything. The press, the media, I think all those kind of things in my mind are incorporated into the lyrics.
Your life's a mystery, mine is an open book. If I could read your mind, I think I'd take a look. I'm not scared, baby, I don't care.
For some reason, in 1986, Chris and I had an obsession with Princess Stephanie of Monaco, because she brought out one quite good record. And from liking Italian pop music, we moved on to liking French pop music, particularly with sort of tinkly, wistful melodies. And we had the idea that Patsy Kensit would make a great Princess Stephanie, French Euro type of singer. And actually on the B-side, she recites the entire song in French.
Oh, débarrasse-moi de ce chien avant qu'il meure, avant qu'il meure.
Anyway, she had quite a good voice, I thought. I was quite surprised that she had such a good voice. And when we were recording the song, she was filing her nails in between takes. God, it made the most annoying noise across the microphone.
I don't remember that, but he swears it happened.
She was always nice. She would drive in this fantastically and horrible battered car. And she'd bring things like smoked salmon, bacon, cream cheese bagels into the studio with her and say, "Would you like a bagel, anyone?"
And I thought, oh, this is a nice way to record it, you know, the sort of feminine touch, arrive with something nice to eat. We liked her, still do.
She told me the other day that Liam Gallagher really likes that record. That someone had slagged it off, and she said, "I'm Not Scared, it's a top tune, that," or something like that, I can't remember.
They went on to work with Liza Minnelli after that, with Miss Minnelli. So I felt quite privileged that I'd been there along there with them and her and Dusty, you know.
I suppose we saw collaboration as a way of being able to use more of our material, because we write quite a lot of songs, and then you find that you can't really release them all yourself.
When the Liza Minnelli record was suggested, I think we just thought, oh, we can do that kind of thing. So they said, "Would you like to meet Liza Minnelli?" And we said, "Yeah, okay, we'll talk about it." And of course, really, I was thrilled to pieces, and I think Chris was too, that we were going to meet Liza Minnelli and do a record with her. It just seemed like ludicrous. Because, you know, you've never met someone as famous as Liza Minnelli. And when I was younger, when Cabaret was out, Liza Minnelli was a big thing for us. And so we were asked to meet Liza in the Mayfair Hotel. And Chris and I got the giggles walking down the corridor. And then we knocked on the door, this sweet and Liza Minnelli opened it. We all laughed. Liza laughed and we laughed. It was funny. We had a very nice chat. We immediately became best friends.
Liza Minnelli on Wogan, 1989.
My guest is one of the world's greatest entertainers. What can I do but introduce Liza Minnelli?
You know, it's so funny. I walked in. I mean, I've never made a pop album, right? So I thought the Pet Shop Boys. Oh, great. Now, what'll I wear? That was all. I knew that I was going to be fine because Neil and Chris would look after all the music. I thought, what should I wear?
She does this unnerving thing where she rests her head in your lap. She's very physical, and you think, oh my God, I've got Liza Minnelli's head. You know, it's kind of that kind of thing, or she'll cuddle up against you and things like that. She opens to you really easily.
I'd been to see the show Follies by Stephen Sondheim in London, the West End. And there's 2 songs I liked. One was Losing My Mind. And so we immediately did a demo of it, which actually worked dead well. We thought that was great. We thought, wow, there we are. Got a hit for Liza immediately. Simple as that. At this point, we could do no wrong. This is that we were imperial, you say, we could do no wrong. In our demo version of Losing My Mind, we had a sample of manic laughing.
You said you loved me, or were you just being kind? Or am I losing my mind?
We both thought it was a really good hook. Liza comes from that Broadway tradition. She felt it looked like we were taking the piss out of it. So we left it out.
You said you loved me, or were you just being kind? Or am I losing my mind?
Electronic happened all around about the same time. Before we went on tour in '89.
We went up to Manchester and started working at Johnny Marr's house. They were the only synthesised bass music that appealed to me, really, besides New Order. I think really Neil was the only other kind of literate lyricist in the 80s besides Morrissey, really. Well, I'd never met Bernard Sumner or Johnny Marr before, and I thought they were really funny, felt a natural affinity with them.
We'd already written most of the first album, and we were glad for the respite, really, for someone else's input.
Yeah, a long time ago now, but they came up a Saturday evening. We just started throwing things down, and everything we put down worked, and the song was written really, really quickly, and we got it to a stage. It took probably about 25 minutes, half an hour to do, and that's how Patience of a Saint was born. We were all very, very pleased with ourselves. And we said, OK then, well, that's the first track done. Let's go to the Hacienda. It was a great moment in rock, great moment in pop.
Neil crumbled early on, but Chris, being the trooper that he is, stuck it out to the bitter end. It was a really wild night, actually. It was a really wild night. I guess there was a bit of joyriding going down at this party. Of course, Neil was safely tucked up in bed. No joyriding for Neil.
It was a good night.
Chris in the studio works like this. He comes in the studio, bleary-eyed, wiping the sleep out of his eyes because he's been to a disco all night. He lies down on the sofa reading Vogue or Loaded or something like that. He'll fall asleep, and then we'll start working on the track, and then he'll wake up for half an hour. Okay, I'm going, oh, I've got an idea. And he'll play something at the computer, you know. Brilliant, usually brilliant, I have to add. And then he'll go back to sleep again like a dormouse. So he's got a strange way of working, but what he does put down is great, you know. I wish I could work in that way. I used to work that way, actually. Maybe he read about that and copied it off me.
First record Chris actually did a vocal on was Pananaro in 1986.
I never feel it's right me being, what do you call it, front man. Just doesn't look right. And I certainly don't feel right either. I'm meant to be moping around in the shadows. That's where I feel most comfortable.
Passion and love and sex and money, violence, religion, justice, death.
I think I did a backing track by myself, and I thought it was really good. And I thought, seeing as Neil wasn't there, I thought I'd sneakily have a little go at putting some, you know, vocal on it. But I couldn't think of anything to say, so I just thought, oh, I know, I'll just write a list out of some words that I like. Obsessions and things. So I just read the list out.
Pananaro, which is always regarded as a great throwaway thing, has got the heaviest words ever in a Pet Shop Boys song, but everyone just assumes they don't mean anything.
Girls, boys, art, pleasure. Girls, boys, art, pleasure.
Pet Shop Boys interviewed on American TV show Entertainment Tonight, 1986.
there's a hot new British duo that's made its way onto the American pop chart.
What kind of music do you hate?
Well, I don't like country and western. I don't like rock music. I don't like rockabilly or rock and roll particularly. Don't like much really, do I? But what I do like, I love passionately.
I remember we sampled that off the video of the programme, put it in, made that the middle bit.
I don't like country and western. I don't like rock music. I don't like rockabilly, rock and roll particularly. Don't like much really, do I? But what I do like, I love passionately.
We'd been to Italy and come across this youth cult, the Paninari. And I think Neil must have said, "Oh, this can be Paninaro, whoa, whoa, whoa." Because we'd always like those Euro records that have "oh, whoa, whoa" all the way through them.
That created a different kind of Pet Shop Boys record. Well, of course, where Chris says a list. To this day, I think it's quite a basically strong idea. It brought his voice into the spectrum of sound or whatever. I was lighted in It's All Right.
I hope it's gonna be alright.
It's gonna be all right.
Alright.
He definitely has a big reluctance about doing them.
I mean, I've never sung. I don't even know what my singing voice would sound like. I don't even sing in the bath.
This is a legendary jingle from Radio 1 FM. Pet Shop Boys, Pet Shop Boys.
You're listening to the documentary about the Pet Shop Boys on Radio 1.
In 1989, we got an offer to tour Japan.
It was always a huge issue, particularly in America. They call them the biggest band ever not to play live.
We were never scared of touring, we just knew what we wanted to do and we could never afford to do it. We used to go to quite a few concerts at the time and we always used to find them a bit boring. You know, they come on, you're dead excited, you hear a couple of songs and then it starts to get a bit boring. And then, you know, you'd leave before the end to avoid the traffic.
The ideal show we wanted to do, which we kept cancelling, was to visualise every single song.
It was really good, actually, because it was the first time we'd really had any contact with the fans. It's a really great feeling. You know, you'd have all the fans with messages for you and things. Neil, you're a sex god and stuff like that. It's not very many people that actually get to experience that, so we're quite lucky in a way, because it is a great feeling to feel that sort of warmth or just love or whatever from a large number of people. All sort of liking you, and you're thinking, oh, tragic old me, you know, and I could do anything, and they kind of like me, so. And also, I'll tell you what was good, I think we had It's All Right out at the time, which was quite high in the charts. I think that the rave scene was just about starting as well, which for me was the best time of my life, really. The whole thing just came together, what do you call it? Synergy.
The year 3000 may still come to pass, but the music shall last. I can hear it on a timeless wavelength, never dissipating, but giving us strength. It's alright. I think it's gonna be alright.
Answering questions from fans, November 1996.
Could I please ask Neil and Chris, how old were they when they left their parents' houses, and how often did they phone their parents, Emma Birmingham? Well, I left home when I was 18 to go to North London Polytechnic. I moved from Newcastle to London, as documented in verse 2 of Being Boring, and I phone my parents every Sunday, or once a week.
Do you?
Yeah.
Speak to mum and dad a couple of times a month or something.
From airports often.
Anywhere where there's a free phone. No, that's not true. I left home at 18 as well, to go to Liverpool. It takes a long time to suss out the people that you're going to get on with or that you like. Particularly at university, I mean, they literally played All Right Now by Free at the Freshers
Absolutely.
Disco. I bet they still do now.
I'm sure they do.
And I just thought it was really, I found that sort of thing pretty depressing.
And they played The Joker by Steve Miller. In those days I used to smoke. And we were early for the train. My parents drove me to the station.
You used to smoke in front of your parents?
I'm telling the story, all right?
Oh,
I didn't used to smoke in front of my parents. And we sat in the cafe and had a cup of coffee. And my mother offered me a cigarette. It was quite a
So it's
touching
like,
moment.
you're grown up now.
It was precisely that.
So being grown
Grown
up
up.
equals smoking.
Because she knew I smoked anyway, of course.
Didn't you feel embarrassed? Did you say no? I just said yeah. Not that I would have surprised. I found it all too embarrassing.
I said yes, and I was very touched, actually.
Did you go by yourself?
Yeah.
With like a bag?
Just have a sack
bag?
and some trepidation, Chris.
Is that all?
And I got a flat in Tottenham where I lived for the next 3 and a bit years. I quite like living in Tottenham.
It's not where you live now, though, is it?
No, it's not actually.
After the tour, we started thinking about the next album, which was Behaviour.
We didn't set out to go mature. We've never set out to go mature. We set out as usual to make an album where every track could be a single. I think we used to say at the time we set out to make 10 Kylie Minogue singles. This was just the period where Kylie Minogue made her best records, you know, like i.e. Better the Devil You Know. And, I mean, actually Being Boring was also an attempt to do a Stock Aitken Waterman thing, believe it or not. We were always fascinated by the way Stock Aitken Waterman would change key for their choruses. And so to be musical about it, the verse of Being Boring was written in A minor, or G minor maybe, and it simply went up a semitone into A flat for the chorus, which we wouldn't have never normally done before. It wasn't an attempt to be mature, it was actually an attempt to be like Stock Aitken and Waterman. This was the time of the Manchester rave thing, and I think there was an expectation that we would be making a sort of rave Manchester kind of album. In fact, we were quite influenced by what was going on there, but with the songs we had, it made it sound mellow. And the only really stompy Pet Shop Boys one was So Hard, which was the first single and the biggest hit from the album. Maybe the one reason the album being melancholy was my friend Chris Dowell dying as well. That might have had something. He died in 1989, and Being Boring was kind of about him and our lives together in Newcastle. But at the same time, I don't think you can really say it cast a shadow over the whole album. Maybe it set a mood for it that we followed through. Being Boring was about 3 phases of our life. The first verse, it was about all my friends in Newcastle. I used to go to the youth theatre, and this friend of mine was one of them. It just describes that, and what our aspirations were.
I came across a cache of photos and invitations to teenage parties. Dressed in white, one said with quotations from someone's wife, a famous writer in the 1920s. When you're young, you find inspiration in anyone who's ever gone and opened up a closing door. She said we were never feeling bored.
And then the second verse, I moved to London, as I did, to go to North London Polytechnic, and just describes, the excitement of that.
When I went, I left from the station with a haversack and some trepidation. Someone said, if you're not careful, you'll have nothing left and nothing to care for in the 1970s. But I sat back and looking forward, my shoes were high and I had scored. I bolted through a closing door, and I would never find myself feeling bored.
And then the third verse is looking back on what's happened, and I'm doing what I'm doing, and he's dead. I mean, it's quite simple. You know, when you've got a best friend, you just assume they'll always be around, and that not being the case.
Now I sit with different faces in rented rooms and foreign places. All the people I was kissing, some are here and some are missing in the 1990s. I never dreamt that I would get somewhere here with me.
I remember Chris and I having a meeting in the office on Sunday afternoon, and we got the chart position phoned through, and it went in the charts like number 32 or something. We couldn't believe it.
Being Boring is one of our favourite songs ever. It just goes to show that what you like yourself might not be the most commercial, which is a constant dilemma I've realised in this business. It's such a moving song, so sad and everything.
And one of the nice things was about Being Boring is that it got this reputation as one of our best songs, and people were always saying how much they loved it. I remember being surprised when we played at the Universal Amphitheatre in Los Angeles in 1991, because Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses came backstage and said how much he liked the show. And he said, "But why didn't you play Boring Man? I just love that song." And that's a very bad imitation of him. And I thought, wow, Axl Rose likes being boring.
'Cause we were never being boring. We had too much time to find for ourselves, and we were never being boring. We dressed up and thought make amends, and we were never holding back, worried that time would come to an end. We were always hoping that, looking back, you could always rely on a friend, and we were never being boring. We were never being bored, 'cause we were never being boring. We were never being bored.
Checking a TV ad for the bilingual album, August 1996.
Shall we go and watch this video so we can phone them back? Yes, Chris?
Yeah.
Is this the volume?
Ya está aquí el nuevo álbum de Pet Shop Boys. Incluye los éxitos Before y Sea Vida That's the way life is.
I don't know if I like having the voiceover.
Let's reject it just for the sake of it. Should we? Should we?
I thought it was quite good apart from...
Hi, Gabby. Yeah, we don't like this advert at all. This advert we've got, yeah, at all. All right. Anyway, more importantly, the restaurant booking. Is it a bit pretentious having it in a foreign language?
Oh, I of course don't like that angle of it. Actually, it's not I don't like the bit being in foreign language, I don't like his voice.
I don't think you can beat Simon Bates, though, for voiceovers.
They asked us to do his show when he went away on holiday.
We said, yeah, we'd do it, but we'd like to do it as a real radio show. We want to come in the studio, receive the faxes live on air, get the phone calls, and play contemporary music. That really did appeal to us, because at the time, there were so many great records, and they weren't generally being played on the radio. Things like Felix, Don't You Want Me, and Brothers in Rhythm, all those sort of records. And I thought, yeah, if I was listening to radio, this is the kind of stuff I'd want to listen to.
It's 9 o'clock in the morning on BBC Radio 1 FM. And for the next 2 hours, here are the Pet Shop Boys.
Hello, this is Neil Tennant.
I'm Chris Lowe with the Pet Shop Boys.
And this is the Golden Hour.
What was the year?
We are the Pet Shop Boys, absolutely live here on Radio 1 with the Golden Hour. Chris Lowe playing all the records.
Right, a couple of clues. Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson, the previously unbeaten world heavyweight champion in Tokyo. And West Germany won the World Cup, beating Argentina. I'll put on another record now, folks. There we go. Oh, you've been listening to Sweet Sensation, Shades of Rhythm. Coming up now, Such a Good Feeling, remixed by Sasha, who's done the mega mix for us for tomorrow.
Every day we're having a mega mix, 20 minutes of club music after the 10:30 news. Today's is by Kenny Ken from the Crazy Club, and later on the week a sensational mix by New York's Frankie Knuckles. And that was one of the most nerve-wracking things we've ever done. I always think we sound like a pirate radio station, because we don't sound remotely professional. We used to do jingles for those shows as well, which I used to really like doing. But my favourite one was This Is a Generic Jingle from Pet Shop Boys. And also as well with me playing the guitar with birds singing.
Pet Shop Boys in the morning. Radio
Pet Shop Boys, Best to You Each Morning. When Simon Bates left, they asked us to record a few words of whatever. We recorded So Long Farewell from the Sound of Music soundtrack.
Adapted to fit the occasion.
So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adieu, goodbye, good luck, from me and him to you.
This is the Pet Shop Boys saying a sad farewell to a great British institution, the Simon Bates Show.
We'll really miss you, Symes.
So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adieu, goodbye, good luck, from me and him to you.
I thought it was a rather good piece of music, actually. So long, farewell. What a good film that is, Sound of Music.
We decided we're definitely going to do a proper world tour.
We didn't think we'd been theatrical enough on the Derek Jarman tour.
We wanted to visualise the songs as though it was an opera. And then everywhere we worked it out, it was going to lose an incredible amount of money. It was going to lose £500,000. So in 1990, we, having sold a lot of records, we could afford to lose £500,000. The show had a sort of a plot.
Well, like everything we've done, it was a strange journey. I think that's the only idea anyone ever has for us. Oh, I know, we'll have it, a strange journey.
At the start of the show, we were school children, and at the end of the show, we died, loaded with show business honours. In fact, killed by show business, I think was the idea.
We get dwarfed by our own success. With these massive Oscars, we end up dead.
And in the encore, we're all in heaven, dressed in white with wings. And being the Pet Shop Boys at the end of the show, we go to bed.
Well, into separate beds. And Neil sang Your Funny Uncle, went up, tucked up in bed, asleep.
We do love you, thank you.
And at the end, your funny uncle staring at all your friends with military bearing and stop to stand to smile and speak of you directly. Goodbye, shake hands like you did everything correctly. To wipe away the tears. No more pain, no fear, no sorrow or dying, no waiting or crying. These former things have passed away. Another life begins. Today.
I got a call from Stephen Woolley, who'd produced Scandal, and he was doing a new film called The Soldier's Wife. And he said, just come and see a preview of it, and I know you're going to love it. And this was the film that was later retitled The Crying Game. They thought they should have an updated version of The Crying Game. And they'd had the idea, because of the nature of the film, that maybe Boy George would sing it. And we immediately thought it was a very, very good idea. So we had lunch with him, and he was really nice.
I'd never really sat down with them, and I thought, yeah, they're really funny. I thought Neil was quite Oscar Wilde-ish, quick-witted, and Chris was more kind of like Whizzer and Chips, he was more like kind of, street kid, which is how I imagined him. If you look at all the early Pet Shop Boys videos, he was the kind of rough trade, and Neil was the kind of, the fey one, the fey character.
And we went down to the studio, and I got the sheet music of the songs. This was the following week, just to work out the key to do it in. And he was amazed that I could play the piano. I think somehow with Pet Shop Boys, people always assume that everyone does everything else for us somehow. They're not really musical at all.
I said to Neil, the song's in the wrong key for me. I mean, I can't sing that high, I'll have to change it. So he sat down at the piano and started playing, and I was gobsmacked. Because I'd been one of those people that thought, oh yeah, they just use like machines, and I didn't think Neil had any talent. I mean, I have to really say that I just thought the guy's talentless and he's just winging it. Before I worked with them, I thought that Chris did all the work and Neil just kind of sat there waving his hands. And when he sat down and started playing the piano and transposing the song, I was like, egg on the face. I was really gobsmacked.
I know all there is to know about the crying game. I've had my share of the crying game.
Answering questions from fans, November 1996.
What do you prefer, the sun or the moon? Alejandro, Spain. Alejandro, Spain.
I thought you were going to say, would you prefer the sun or the mirror?
It'd be a better question, wouldn't it?
Difficult one. What do you prefer, the sun or the moon? The sun, obviously. It's because it's hot and everything.
What about the serious moonlight?
Moonlight is sort of serious, isn't it? I like a full moon. The full moon the other night.
I get more of an emotional response from the moon. But at the end of the day, the sun's a bit more useful because it gives us all our energy.
You get an emotional response from the sun. On a sunny day, you come bouncing in.
There's nothing like a new moon, though, is there? With the stars shining.
A new moon on Monday.
The twinkling of the stars.
I remember we did Being Boring on Top of the Pops, and I thought we looked terrible. And we both thought this whole way of being the Pet Shop Boys has got to sort of change a bit. And our American manager, Armour, said to us, how can we do this amazing show and your videos aren't like that? Of course, this had never entered our heads, needless to say. And we said, oh, it's a good idea.
We decided to have a complete change of style for everything to do with Very. I've been playing a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff, and I thought it'd be, instead of making a traditional video, put us into computer landscapes rather than real landscapes and make us more of a cartoon character. We wanted to wear abstract costumes and things like that as a reaction against everyone being dead normal. I mean, it was the height of laddishness and everyone was just wearing baggy jeans, trainers, T-shirts, anoraks.
So on this, the first video, Can You Forgive Her, we actually literally had our own sort of universe, which we then set out to create using computer graphics. And David Fielding came up with these brilliant costumes based on the line in Can You Forgive Her about being at school. So we had the idea that we were the dunces. So we invented huge dunces caps for us, forever after known as the pointy hats. In fact, they were meant to be dunces caps. And then we relentlessly went on, and when we did Go West, we designed new costumes. So we had the idea that every song was going to have a completely new look. And what we were trying to get towards was the day where Chris and I wouldn't have to be in the video. We could be digital creatures. You just made the video and you had us on computer, kind of on file, you could change us around, and unfortunately we still haven't reached that day. Go West was written as a gay anthem about all the gays moving to San Francisco. That's what was the Village People's angle. And then when we did it, in the era of AIDS, we kind of made it slightly sadder, because that dream had sort of soured, it had died away in many ways.
There where the air is free will be what we want to be. Now if we make a stand, we'll find our promised land. There are many ways in the sun or shade. We will find a place where there's so much space, and the pace back east, rustling just to feet, ready to lead to. So that's what we are gonna do. What we're gonna do is go red. Life is peaceful there.
I'd been going to watch Arsenal play for a few years and stuff. Our office got a phone call out of the blue from Ian Wright's management or agent or whatever, saying he was interested in a record. Couldn't possibly say no. I was really excited by it. So eventually came down to the studio and actually it was a hit in Japan. Ian Wright in Japan is known as a pop singer first and a footballer second. And then Go West happened. That kind of even more solidified the connection. The first time we heard it was Paris Saint-Germain. They were singing, "Ohé, Paris Saint-Germain, ohé." And then everyone started singing 1-0 to the Arsenal because we kept winning 1-0 all the time. And then other teams started sort of singing answer backs to that, which you can't say on the radio, but you're, and you know you are. Actually, I think that's our greatest achievement, really. We've always wanted to have a song sung by football supporters, and Go West ended up the football anthem of all of Europe.
Chris actually recorded with Ian Wright over our backing track, Ian Wright singing 1-0 to the Arsenal. And he made a video. They played this video at Arsenal at half-time. It's a hoot.
1-0 to the Arsenal. 1-0 to the Arsenal. 1-0 to the Arsenal. 1-0 to the Arsenal. Sing it with me now.
If you use gay imagery and you are gay, it sort of negates it really, because you sort of expect it. Whereas if you don't know whether they're gay or not, and they've got this imagery, it makes it more sort of exotic and interesting, I think. It gave you a kind of freedom to be more enigmatic and for people to have their own interpretation of what you're about. Actually, in some ways, it made gay imagery more interesting.
I like ambiguity. I think it's quite good that you can think, I know what he's on about there, or whatever, but it's not instantly obvious, it's not a very direct one.
But by this point I thought, I'm sure everyone knows I'm gay anyway. There's no pretense, really. I was 40 years old, and all my friends knew I was gay. So I decided to do this interview. Wasn't exactly hold the front page, I don't think. There's always this kind of gay mythology that when you come out publicly, it's meant to be kind of the great liberating moment of your life. Didn't, to me, seem to be a very big deal. I know it's heretical to say this, but it didn't really seem to make any difference.
It's up to him what he wants to do. I wouldn't have done that. I mean, nothing I do is anyone else's business as far as I'm concerned. It just isn't. There's one sexuality as far as I'm concerned. There's only one. And so it doesn't really matter what the configuration is to that. I don't like people making assumptions about me. They should only believe things that they've heard from me. Seeing as I don't like to say very much, they shouldn't know very much.
I do think in centuries to come, people will look back on this period of human history and think it weird that people define themselves by their sexuality. It does become annoying that people see everything as a major gay statement. I've always said, and people probably assume it's sort of bullshit, that I write songs from different points of view. I've often written lyrics, this is still the case, imagining that I'm writing from a woman's point of view, or from a straight man's point of view. I don't just write from the point of view of a gay man. I mean, on the most recent album, Bilingual, there is a gay statement, the song Metamorphosis. It is about what I felt when I was younger. I didn't want to be gay. I wanted to be straight. I imagined myself having children, being married. And you realise it's not going to happen. Single Bilingual is about a straight man. It's meant to be completely straight. But with doubts, that's why the pun on bilingual and bisexual, I suppose. Before I imagined that Rent was sung by a woman. And then finally it was when Liza did it.
Look at my hopes, look at my dreams, the currency we've spent. I love you, you pay my rent.
We decided to do a tour of Latin America. It was just a real spur-of-the-moment thing. We thought we'd do one where you can get up and dance and more of a party atmosphere. One of the themes of the concert was doing medleys with other songs in. We did It's a Sin with I Will Survive, One in a Million Men with Mr Vane, Culture Beat. And we did Left to My Own Devices, which suddenly goes into Rhythm of the Night. It's quite good. It was always an uplifting moment doing those things. It was such a surprise.
But in the back of my head, I heard distant feet, Che Guevara and Debussy to a disco beat. This is the rhythm of the night.
Went to a samba school, and the samba drums are just so brilliant, very uplifting and powerful. And there's also this record that we kept hearing on the radio, and it had this real dum dum sort of rhythm.
And we used a rhythm like that on several tracks, like Single Bilingual. So though not all of Bilingual has got Latin drums on it, several of the tracks have.
Se a Vida is actually based on a Brazilian song. There's a very famous Brazilian group called Olodum, and it's based on one of their songs. And Se a Vida was one line.
O sopro que vem do mar me faz feliz. Eu quero te bronzear, ser tua flor de lis. Eu quero ser teu amor, te namorar. Eu quero espantar a dor pra outro lugar.
We changed the music actually quite a lot, but it's based on that.
So obviously they get a lot of the publishing of that song.
The reviews of this album are weird, I think, because they say it's their most upbeat album and all this, and I think, God, I mean, it's not how I mean, I find it one of the most tragic, sad, emotional albums we've ever made.
It's quite a sort of heavy album, really. If you think of Discoteca, it's about normality, you know, in the face of death, up against it, to step aside, you know, all the Pet Shop Boys are going to break up, which is ultimately what that's about. Metamorphosis. You know, there's quite a lot of songs about heavy subjects there, if you like. I think it's also about growing older, how things seem to become more complicated. That's why in Se a Vida, you know, life is much more simple when you're young. Chris and I had an endless philosophical debate about whether life is much more simple when you're young. But it is. I mean, I think when you are younger, you see things in a simpler way and your priorities are simpler. And when you get older, it seems more confusing and more difficult. And that is very much a theme of the album as well.
All the reviews were upbeat, happy party time, and I just couldn't see it. But I think that's because people relate samba drums to party, therefore it's up. Actually, one of the things we've always done is upbeat tempo and sad melodies and chords, so you get the antagonism.
In terms of the concept of the album, if you like, the start of the album you get the voice saying, "Hay una discoteca por aquí," you know, is there a disco near here? Someone who's going out and carrying on as normal. But it takes a while to go out and carry on as normal in this album. In many ways it reflects our first album, Please, which started with someone running away into the night. And I think we're still doing that. And right at the end of the album, you get to the disco, you get to the fun disco. After you go through all the heartache and the pain and the weirdness, you actually get to dance at the end. So it's just a very simple, upbeat ending.
That was the idea, that you actually end up in the club. You start off looking for one, and then you end in one. And it's the ultimate Saturday night, you know, Saturday night forever. It just goes on and on. It's never going to end.
There you go.
Well, we finished. Excellent.
Marvellous.
About the